This is not a very easy video for me to make. Not by a long shot. It has nothing to do with the cars out on the highway or the rabbits over there jumping in the pens. Those are technical difficulties. I have emotional difficulties making this video. If you watched the video yesterday and or the video Monday, and if you remember back some months ago, some of the videos I made, you know that we still have goats. We have a whole new group of goats than what we had a little more than a year ago, say March of last year. We only have one of the goats that we had way back then. And I'm going to tell you more about that in today's video. Our goat keeping journey has been long and not always fun, not always difficult either. We've kept goats, my wife and I, off and on, more on than off, for the 20 or so years that we've been married. I think it's 23 years will be in September that we've been married. And we've had goats for most of that time. We had goats when we were first married, and even before that, my family had goats. She didn't have goats. She grew up in Romania. She didn't have goats as a young person, but she did have sheep, so she's used to, small to medium-sized ruminant animals. But once we got married, we had a couple of boar goats. We had some Nigerian goats, and we had a bunch of pygmy goats, and we raised those without difficulty or incident at all. No issue at all. We were using chemical wormers, and there's Jeremiah.
Hey.
We were using chemical wormers, and no issues, no problems with any of that. They bred on their own. We never separated the bucks from the does, and they delivered their babies all on their own. Sometimes out in the field, in the pasture, not in the barn. No issues at all with that. But then we decided that we wanted to have Nubian milk goats. I have enormous, giant, ugly hands. There's no way that I can milk a Nigerian. We tried milking a pygmy goat 4 or 5 years ago. That didn't work out very well. The kids were able to get some milk from her, but I never was able to do that. The teats were just way too small. I got a stain on my shirt. So we decided to get Nubian milk goats. About, we'll say, 7 years ago. 7 years ago, our middle son Daniel wanted a baby deer for his birthday, and we couldn't make that happen. Daniel has autism. Prior to that birthday, that was his 9th birthday. Prior to that, he spent 3 years nonverbal. He didn't speak at all, except for some grunts and growls. So when he finally started to talk and he asked for a baby deer for his birthday, we tried to oblige. We couldn't make it happen with a baby deer, so we got a bottle baby little girl Nubian goat. We drove to Georgia and we got her from Miss Nancy Gary, wonderful, beautiful lady. And we loved that little baby goat. We named her Rosalina. We had some pygmy goats at the time. And the kids were really big into Mario at that time, and they named her Princess Rosalina, which apparently is a Mario character.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we kept Rosalina and had no issues with her or the pygmy goats that we had at the time. We decided to phase out the pygmy goats and get more Nubians, and so we sold the pygmies, and we met Rose at Wholesome Roots through YouTube, and we got Cinnamon goat, the buck, the big brown buck from Rose. And so we drove to Georgia, and we got Cinnamon from Rose. And Cinnamon came here as he had probably been weaned just a few months, as a young, very young buck. He came here. And Cinnamon was wonderful. He was not a bottle baby, but he was calm. He was tame enough. And that was great and wonderful. And Cinnamon is still perfectly fine. He lives on another farm now. We'll get to that in a moment. But then Rose said, hey, I have another doe that I want to come and live at your house. And so we got Parsley. Rose didn't want to keep... Rose loved Parsley, still loves Parsley, because Parsley just has a great personality. But Rose didn't want Parsley in her breeding herd because milk goats are supposed to have two teats that hang down from their udder. And one of Parsley's teats, the one on the right hand side, it branches off and there's a third nipple opening. So when you milk her, milk squirts straight out to the side. Rose didn't want that in her breeding, but Parsley was a wonderful goat, so she gave Parsley to us. So we went back to Georgia and we brought Parsley home. So grateful to Rose. You know Wholesome Roots. Be sure you're subscribed and you're watching all her videos. We love Parsley, and the Parsley is the mother to the two babies that we currently have. Parsley's not the best of mothers. A lot of that has to do with her own genetics. She has this large milk gene where she produces lots and lots of milk, which is really good for us. But that means that her udder and her teats are enormous and the little baby goats just can't latch on. And so that is a concern and a consideration for you. Make sure that you do ducks. Make sure that you do your planning and your due diligence with that. Look at that. Parsley is so full she can't even move. Get up, girl. Come on. So last spring, we had 3 goats. We had Cinnamon Goat, the buck. We had Rosalina and Parsley Ann. And the 2 does were both pregnant. Parsley delivered one Sunday morning while we were at church. And when we got home, the baby was found barely alive in the mud out in the field. I blame myself. We should have kept her up in the stall that morning and not let her out. That's why I have been overly cautious this time around and have kept the goats in. The baby died 2 days later, and we were able to milk Parsley all summer long and into fall. Rosalina delivered one baby on her own, but it was born dead. The second baby was stuck, and I had to help get the feet out, and it was born alive, but it only lived for a few hours. And they were all 3 little doelings, the 2 from Rosalina and the 1 from Parsley. That was last year. It was extremely sad for us, but we had Cinnamon Goat, the daddy, and we had 2 beautiful mama goats that we were milking. And we loved them. We loved the goats. We loved the goat milk. But we were sad that we didn't have the baby goats. And so another wonderful friend of ours, Nicole, at Covenant Farms down near Auburn, Alabama, she had another friend. I still don't know who this person is, but they got us a baby goat, a little Nigerian buckling, as a surprise gift. I knew gave the okay for JoJo to come and live here, but Danielle and none of the kids knew that we were getting the baby goat. And it was so generous and so kind, and we still have JoJo. Absolutely love JoJo. He is a pain in the backside, a pain in the butt. He is mischievous, he is curious, he is funny, he is a lot of trouble. But we love him. I have videos of him when he was a baby at the feed store running around, and the cashiers oohing and ahhing over him. But we were able to bottle feed him, and he is just wonderful. That's Jojo. He's sticking his head through our little pallet fence, eating a bale of hay. If you never had Nigerian dwarfs, they are difficult to contain. And speaking of that, Rose at Wholesome Roots in Georgia had some alpine goats. And one of the alpine goats that she got, if I'm remembering the story correctly, was a mini alpine. She was a half Nigerian dwarf, half full-size, standard-sized alpine goat. And she came to Rose already pregnant, and the dad, the sire of the babies that she was carrying, was a Nigerian dwarf. So the babies would be 3/4 Nigerian dwarf and 1/4 alpine. And that mother delivered the baby, and it was a little girl, and Rose kept her, and her name was Luna Carrots, beautiful orange color. And Rose said, "Hey, I have this little goat, this little girl goat, and I don't have anything that I can breed with her because all of my bucks are full-size giant Nubian goats. And you have little Jojo now. Why don't you come and get Luna Carrots and let Luna Carrots live with Jojo and make beautiful babies?" And so that is just exactly precisely what we did. And so Luna came to live with us. And so we had Rosalina and Parsley and Cinnamon, the full-size purebred Nubians. We had Jojo, the purebred miniature Nigerian dwarf. And we had Luna Carrots, the mini alpine, 3/4 Nigerian dwarf, 1/4 alpine. And all was good. Luna came into estrus, and she wanted to breed with Cinnamon because he was in full rut. We did not let that happen. We put her in with Jojo. We never saw them actually breed. We don't know if they actually bred. So I don't know if Luna ever became pregnant with Jojo. I know for a fact that Rosalina and Parsley both were pregnant with Cinnamon. I wrote the date down. I knew when it happened. And I put them together again about a week later, and both mamas got big, enormous. And so we were expecting babies from 3 different does. And then something terrible, bad, horrible happened. So we were moving buildings around to make things more accessible for us. And over to the left of this shot is where the goat barn was. And to the right of this shot was where one of the bird buildings was. And in between is this tree. And it was enclosed with an aviary. You can see the chain link fence is still here. And this is not part of the tree. This is a vine, a bush, something that has climbed up into this tree, way up, into this tree. You can see there is the trunk of the vine. There's the trunk of the oak tree, and it goes way up into this tree. It blooms. You can see that it is about to bloom. It is evergreen. It is a beautiful vine. And so I have told everyone, don't do anything to this vine. Well, the goats have never had access to this because it was enclosed in chain link with pheasants and ducks inside. Once we took that down, the goats had access. And the very first day, Rosalina and Luna Carrots came over, and they each took about one big mouthful of this. And I thought that might not be the safest thing for them to eat. So we grabbed up the goats and we put them back inside the barn. The next morning they were both dead, Rosalina and Luna Carrots. I don't know what this tree is. I haven't cut it yet. I will, eventually, probably. The goats no longer have access to it. They live on the other side of the yard. They would have to come through 3 different fences to get to this now. If you know what this may be, leave me a comment, please. So during all of this happening, our friend Nicole at Covenant Farms made the decision that she wanted a pet bird, a little green-cheeked conure, which we happen to have lots of. And she raises boar goats, big, beautiful, giant white goats. Boar goats are traditionally bred as a meat goat. She raises hers as show animals and wins prizes all over the southeast for such beautiful, beautiful goats. And so we made an agreement with Nicole that we would trade one of our green-cheeked conure babies for one of her boar doelings. And so that's exactly what we did. And that's the story of how Ginger Louise came to live at our house. She is a girl, and she is so sweet. She is not a bottle baby. We didn't feed her. She came here totally, completely weaned. But she was raised naturally by her mother down in Nicole's farm. And so we're so happy to have her because she is beautiful. I know she's not a milk goat, and we probably won't eat her babies, and they're not going to be for show, but she's basically a pet, and the babies will probably just be sold as pets if we're ever fortunate and lucky enough to have babies from her. The kids are in the back on the trampoline. So we were left with little Jojo and young little Ginger Louise and Cinnamon Goat, the Nubian buck, and ever enlarging Parsley Ann, the Nubian from Rose. And we knew that Parsley was pregnant with Cinnamon's babies, and the opportunity came from another person that needed a Nubian buck. And I knew that if Parsley had does that, there goes a truck on the highway. I knew that if Parsley had little doelings, I would keep the little doelings as part of our breeding herd, milking herd. And I couldn't breed them back to their dad. So I made the decision to sell Cinnamon, which left us without a large breed, full-size Nubian buck. And so I asked around. I had something in mind of what I wanted. I wanted Number one, I wanted a full-size, purebred Nubian buck. Number two, I wanted him to be registered so that I could register his kids. Number three, just for kicks, I wanted him to be what's called flashy colors, moon-spotted or mostly white. Number four, I wanted him to come from good milk lines. And number five, I wanted him to be polled. Polled means that they're naturally hornless. They don't grow horns, never will grow horns, don't have to worry about horns. That seemed like a pretty large bill to fill. Everyone said, if you find that goat, if that goat exists, that's going to be $1,000 goat. Well, I don't have $1,000 to spend, not on a goat. So I put word out, hey big guy, I put word out of what I was looking for, and a friend, I've known her on Facebook for quite a while, but she and Nicole have sold goats together to one another back and forth quite a bit. She only lives about 45 minutes from me, down in Shelby County, Alabama. She had this guy, that guy. He is a registered, full-size, Nubian, purebred buckling. Beautiful tricolor, look at that. Brown, black, and white. Nice, flashy colors, just what we were looking for. And he is naturally polled. Now, I will do another video about that tomorrow, Thursday. But he is our new future herd sire. Jojo, we're not sure what we will do with Jojo. He's probably just going to be a pet forever. He is not weathered, not yet. That may happen soon, or I may try to get a little Nigerian female to breed with him just because. Why not? I think maybe I want one goat each of all the different breeds. I don't know. But that's where we are. We have his name, I didn't tell you that. His name is Pepper Jack. So we have Pepper Jack and Jojo, and it's going to wiggle a lot. We have Parsley, Ann, and Ginger Louise, and then we have the two baby goats inside. And they don't have names yet. We're not going to keep the boy. We are going to keep the little girl. Now a little bit more about Parsley's babies. I haven't been completely and totally forthright with you, and I apologize, but Parsley actually delivered 3 babies. The very first one was a little dolie, and she was underdeveloped. She had an umbilical hernia, and she never stood up. She would suck on my finger. She would never nurse from a bottle, so we tube fed her. She lived for about 24 hours, and then she passed on. The second baby that Parsley delivered was the boy, the beautiful little reddish brown one with the white spot on his head. And honestly, I thought that was it. A goose just bit the dog. I had joked on Facebook that I thought that she was going to have 3 babies. It wasn't really a joke. I was hoping she would have 3 babies. I was hoping she would have 3 girls. Most importantly, I wanted them all to be healthy, and that really didn't happen. The first one was the baby that didn't live. The second one is the little boy, beautiful little boy with the white on his head. And the third is the little girl. She was born later in the day, almost 2 hours after the others were born. I was inside with that first one. The little one that was underdeveloped was cold. She couldn't keep her temperature up, so I had wrapped her up to her neck in a plastic bag and submerged her in a big bowl of warm water to help bring her internal temperature up. And so I was playing intensive care nurse to that baby. Thought that everything was fine out here in the barn. And 2 hours later, Catherine comes running into the house screaming, "Daddy, Daddy, there's another baby out there." And so I took care of the little baby in the house. I put her inside the big bird incubator where the temperature is set at 99 degrees. And that helped a lot to keep her temperature up. And I came out here and the little boy was walking around in here with Parsley, and the little girl, the third baby, the second girl, was just then standing up. I don't know if it was for the first time or if she was just standing up to stand up. But when I approached the barn area, she was down on the ground and then she stood up, and I was so relieved to see her stand up. That was Saturday. That was Daniela's birthday. By the time Daniela got home at 7, it was starting to get cold, and it was clearly evident that they were not nursing with Parsley. Not only that, but she was pushing them away from her. If they came up to her in the front, if they came up to her udder, she was kicking at them. And so Daniela, she got the babies and brought them inside. And so we had the 3 baby goats in the house at that time, along with all the baby birds and a baby kitten that were hand feeding, bottle feeding. So we were feeding the 2 babies, the two fully developed babies, the boy and the third baby, the little girl, the second girl. Daniela made them a nice comfortable bed in the bathtub and put a heat lamp over them to keep them warm. And that first baby that wasn't fully developed stayed in our bedroom in the baby bird brooder. And I was tube feeding her overnight, and Sunday morning I was able to feed her some, but by Sunday evening she had passed. That's just part of life. Death is part of life. It's been said that if you have livestock, you will eventually have to deal with dead stock, and it is extremely sad. It is very unfortunate, and it is not something that anyone ever looks forward to. But it's something that we have to deal with, and it's something that we have to move on from. So, as sad and unfortunate as it is, I'm not going to let it hinder us. We have Pepperjack, our new buckling. We have Parsley, who has, this is her second time to kid. It's her second year to be milked. We have Ginger Louise, the boar, that we will be breeding in this fall. We have little Jojo, who I probably need to find a little doe for. And we have the 2 babies inside. The little boy is going to need a home. Like I said in the video yesterday, if you live local to the Birmingham, Alabama area, or Anniston, Alabama area, we're about halfway in between those 2 places. If you're within driving distance of here, he is for sale, available. I'd like to hang on to him for several more weeks now, just to make sure that he is okay. But if you'd like to put a deposit on him, get with me through Facebook or Instagram, or even down in the messages underneath here. Send me an email, daybirdaviaries@yahoo.com. We're going to keep the little girl just for as long as the good Lord will let us, I suppose. Well, that's my big, long, giant goat update. I know it hasn't been enjoyable, but I hope it has brought everyone up to speed. And that's that. God bless you. Bye-bye.